Up next on The Reveal. For the first time, a Georgia family speaks out after video surfaces showing nursing home aides laughing at their mother's bedside while she's having a stroke.
I don't know how people can be that cruel. That's cruel.
What was missing in their mother's room they believe could have prevented it.
To not let somebody die alone, I think about that all the time.
A father torn apart by the death of his son, but that was just the beginning of this family's nightmare.
I said, no. I said, what are you doing? Or no, I didn't want it.
Disturbing allegations from a woman who says she was raped by an officer of the law, and it's not an isolated case. The Reveal begins now.
Welcome to The Reveal, a show dedicated to life-changing investigations.
And we begin tonight with calls for change after a Snapchat video leads to the arrests of 3 nursing home aides.
It's a bizarre case that has a Georgia family pleading with lawmakers, pleading for legislation they say would prevent abuse following the death of their mother.
She lived her life with quiet dignity is the best way that I know to describe it.
This may be Sherry Brown's favorite picture of her mom because it is their last.
She was very happy and engaged. We had a great visit.
76-year-old Judith Murray's once sharp sense of humor silenced by dementia.
It is truly a horrific disease.
A few hours after taking that picture, Brown said goodbye to her mom, who lived at Bentley Assisted Living in Jefferson, Georgia, a long-term care facility. According to police this past July, Murray then suffered a massive stroke while she lay in bed unable to move or speak. A nursing aide recorded this Snapchat video at Murray's bedside with 2 others, showing them flipping the bird, vaping, and using this caption reading "The End" with a smiling emoji.
What was your reaction when you saw the video?
I thought I was going to vomit.
Brown then returned to the nursing home after learning about the stroke. A familiar nursing aide greeted her at the door.
And so we were walking down the hall and she put her arm around me. It was very, very consoling toward me. And then I found out that she was the one who actually made the video on her phone. And she is the one who put the banner on it. She is the one who put it on Snapchat.
So she created that video and then within an hour she's consoling you?
That's right. I don't know how people can be that cruel. That's cruel.
Police charged all 3 nursing aides with exploitation of a disabled adult. The nursing home fired the 3 women. Its nursing home told us at no time were residents' safety compromised.
If they did this and made a video of it and put it on the internet, what were they doing that we don't know about? I can't help but make that connection.
Over the past year, The Reveal has uncovered some of the most disturbing claims of nursing home abuse in the country.
What the hell?
From a resident eaten alive by parasitic mites,
There's no doubt that this was very painful to her.
to a World War II veteran named James Dempsey, seen in hidden camera video begging nursing home staff for help because he couldn't breathe. Dempsey's family placed the hidden camera in the nursing home room. When the facility learned we had a copy, it tried to prevent 11 Alive from airing the video by appealing to Georgia's state Supreme Court.
It's an important thing to do.
Atlanta attorney Mike Prieto represented Dempsey's family and also represents Murray's.
In the Dempsey case that you covered, when our experts read the medical records, they said nothing bad happened here. And it wasn't until we had the video surveillance that we found out that horrific things happened there.
Charged with felony murder.
And that currently, as a result of that, all 3 of those caregivers are under indictment.
Across the country, 9 states have specific laws on the books which require nursing homes to allow families to install cameras in rooms. Georgia is not one of them.
Those other states must get it. They must care about people.
Over the past 3 years, State Representative Demetrius Douglas has tried to pass legislation, but it's gone nowhere.
I said, well, if you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, Why would it mind if you had a camera in the room? I don't understand. What are you trying to hide?
And so why do you think your bill did not pass last session?
Well, it didn't even get called up for a hearing last session.
Why do you think that is?
Politics. That's the best I can say. Politics.
The long-term care lobby in the state of Georgia is the most powerful lobby in the state of Georgia.
12 days after the video was posted on Snapchat, Miss Murray passed away.
I believe that if cameras had been in there, those things would not have happened. I never dreamed that it would happen to my mom, and it did. Something good needs to come of this.
I would imagine the nursing home industry has a lot to say about that. Have you heard from them?
We've reached out to the association which represents nursing homes here in Georgia, and they are not a fan of these cameras. They say it will not protect residents. They say more money needs to be invested into nursing homes here in the state.
And you know, Andy, it failed this time. Is the lawmaker going to try again?
Yeah, Representative Douglas does plan to refile his legislation. We will see what happens.
Up next on The Reveal.
He would throw himself into walls. He would constantly bang his head.
A Georgia couple says false accusations have torn their family apart. The state disagrees.
The agency's role is to protect these children, and the court's role is to protect these children.
We rely on our child welfare system to keep kids safe. And with that responsibility comes a lot of power to be able to take kids from their families, sometimes forever.
Yeah, it's not an easy decision, but how long should the state take to make it, especially if it's not clear if the parents did anything wrong?
Yeah, whenever he would laugh, I mean, it was a good time.
He was definitely a funny child.
But Giovanni was also a sick child.
He was born at around 31 and a half weeks. He was 3 pounds 6 ounces.
Born premature, he spent the first month of his life in the hospital. His parents visited several doctors, sensing something else was wrong. But every time, the answer was the same.
Oh, nothing's wrong. It's just his prematurity. He'll catch up.
But Giovanni never did catch up. He was eventually diagnosed with failure to thrive,
pervasive developmental disorder, abdominal distension,
and doctors suspected a metabolic deficiency. He weighed only 17 pounds when his mother found him dead in his bed. He was 4 years old.
Come home and you see the, fire department and everything right there. You know, you're not gonna be able to, see your son no more. You know what I mean?
Like the doctors before, the medical examiner had no explanation. The cause of death, undetermined. Homicide detectives did investigate, but they found no sign of foul play. Ordinarily, this is where the officials fade away.
I'm not sure.
As the family grieves, searching for a new normal. But this is no ordinary story. A month after Giovanni died, the court ordered DFACS to remove their youngest son from the house.
Last time he slept in his bed was when he was removed in August of 2014.
At the time, the mom was also pregnant, and 2 weeks after their daughter was born, DFACS took her as well.
I called the homicide detective that was on the case, and I said, well, do you have anything new?
Police seemed just as surprised as the parents, but both would soon learn that while no one knew how Giovanni died, the medical examiner believed at some point he had been abused. There were signs of healed fractures or possibly even broken bones, a deep bruise on his butt, and strange marks on the back of his head.
The agency's role is to protect these children, and the court's role is to protect these children.
Child welfare attorney and juvenile court judge Ashley Wilcott says while police have cleared the family, DFACS cases are civil. Different rules apply.
Civil court for dependency is clear and convincing evidence. That's a lower standard.
But the impact is no less dramatic because one judge now has the power to decide if these concerns are enough to rip the entire family apart. The autopsy and court records are sealed, but for 4 days I was allowed to listen to testimony from police the medical examiner, and caseworkers. The evidence defects believes points to abuse. The parent's medical expert argues is further proof Giovanni was a very sick little boy.
He would throw himself into walls. He would constantly bang his head.
The parents believe his metabolic disease and low body fat made him more prone to bruising and perhaps even bone fractures during one of his violent tantrums. Still, for nearly 4 years, the couple's other 2 children have lived in foster care, allowed only a few hours each month to reconnect. These parents have missed first steps and first words.
We don't know what's going to happen.
You want to stay here?
Yeah. The couple says they thought DFACS would fight for their children to come home. That was until a caseworker told them by text message DFACS had changed its mind because the overriding concern remained, a concern these parents say they are helpless to do anything about. You guys have not taken responsibility for the death of your son.
Even though we didn't.
What is there to take responsibility for?
Giovanni's father says the only thing he's sorry about is that he couldn't save his son, or at least if it was his time to go, be there with him.
To not let somebody die alone, I think about that all the time.
Rebecca, when can we expect a decision on this from the judge?
It's really unclear because while I was doing my research, I received a document from DFACS that the parents say they've never seen. So now there are questions as to whether their attorney received all of the documentation that they were legally required to get. You can imagine that that's going to be before the judge. And while you want these parents to have a fair shake, you also want to get these kids out of foster care.
And you've done several investigations into DFACS. I'm just curious to know how this one came about.
Faith, we get a call or an email every week from someone concerned about our child welfare system. And these stories are really tough to investigate because of privacy laws, but something about this one just didn't feel right. So I have actually followed this family for more than a year, and I can tell you, regardless of the outcome, there's going to be a lot more to say about this case.
Coming up on The Reveal.
They asked me things about my body, and it was things that they shouldn't have been asking me.
Police officers preying on women they've sworn to protect. Our investigation into a nationwide trend. Police officers take an oath to protect and serve, but a 3-month-long investigation by our sister station in St. Louis reveals some officers across the country are misusing that authority and preying on women for sex.
It was Friday night, and Sarah was driving home from a fundraiser.
Great time, food, drinks, they were gonna have auction.
Now she realized she had 2 problems. First, that she was lost.
The road just kept going and going.
And second,
I had been drinking.
So she pulled over into an Illinois gas station to get off the road. But soon,
I heard a tap on my window, and I looked at an officer.
Officer Chad Gagnon, who took her keys and ID and went back to his cruiser. But Sarah says when he came back, something was off.
He was making obscene comments about my breasts.
Then Gagnon's partner arrived, Officer Jason Forbes, who joined the conversation.
They asked me things about my body, and it was things that they shouldn't have been asking me.
Then Gagnon wanted her to go back to the police station for a breathalyzer test. But instead of putting her in the back of his cruiser, Sarah says
he actually puts me in the front seat of his car,
right next to him. And so they drove. And Sarah says it wasn't long before this officer of the law opened his trousers and exposed himself to her.
He ended up wanting me to give him oral sex.
And she says that was just the beginning of her troubles.
Police officers certainly have more power.
Andrea Ritchie is a nationally recognized expert and attorney who has specialized in police misconduct cases.
They have the power literally to shoot you, to kill you, to use force against you, to arrest you.
Unfortunately, Ritchie says some officers deliberately take advantage of that power. The proof? Cases around the country, like in New York State, where this Niagara Falls cop fondled and even raped women drivers. In Houston, where this police officer handcuffed and then raped a waitress. And California, where this Maywood cop sexually assaulted 5 women while on the job. Which brings us back to Illinois and the case of Sarah and Officer Chad Gagnon. Sarah says it was 1 in the morning when they finally reached the back parking lot of the Manteno police station. Gagnon brought her a breathalyzer as his partner watched her take the test.
I blew like a 0.16 or something, and so we were laughing about it.
Then, suddenly, she says, Chad Gagnon grabbed her, bent her over the car, and raped her.
I said, no. I said, what are you doing? Or no, I didn't want it. The other cop was there and didn't help me.
Sarah says she was in a daze as Gagnon put her back in the cruiser and drove her back to the gas station where he'd found her.
He said, okay, I'm going to go this way, you go that way. He gave me my keys. I was still drunk.
Still, Sarah managed to report the incident and get to the hospital to have a rape kit done. Early the next morning, the Illinois State Police brought her in for an interview with 2 investigators.
It sounds to me like this was, a consensual encounter that maybe you regret.
She says it was quickly clear.
They didn't believe me or they didn't want to.
And when an initial round of DNA tests didn't back her story, and officers Gagnon and Forbes denied any wrongdoing, Sarah says,
we were told there's no DNA evidence, that you're a liar.
And so the Illinois State Police had Sarah indicted for making a false report.
The handling from the investigators in this case was outrageous.
Lewis Meyer is Sarah's attorney.
But this is the first time I've ever seen the victim actually be charged with 2 felony counts for, reporting what occurred to her.
Soon her trial approached, but as her attorney prepared for it, he discovered something startling in the state's files. A DNA test of Officer Chad Gagnon's underwear that neither he nor Sarah were ever told about. A test that found Sarah's DNA on the inside of his briefs, backing up her account of that night.
Sarah, you were telling the truth, and we have now scientific proof.
And finally, the state quietly dropped its charges against Sarah. As for Officers Gagnon and Forbes, they were cleared by the Manteno Police Department and are still working there. Something that's hard for Sarah to take.
I did everything you're told to do. I can 100% see why women do not turn this in.
There have been several new developments since investigator PJ Randall filed that report. She joins us now with an update.
Sarah moved far away from Illinois because she felt she just wasn't safe from the police. Since then, she's filed 2 lawsuits, one against the Manteno police and another against the state police. In the meantime, since our original report, another woman stepped forward with allegations that she too was the victim of an officer-involved rape, prompting the St. Louis prosecutor to reopen her case. For The Reveal, I'm PJ Randawa.
If you have a news tip or a comment on one of our investigations, email us at thereveal@11alive.com. Here's a preview of our investigations next week on The Reveal. A top national expert in police dogs says something went terribly wrong in the training and deployment of this Roswell canine.
You've been watching The Reveal, a show fueled by investigations that make an impact.
And join us next week for The Reveal.